In this video, we're going to notch the subframe on our 1971 Camaro to make some room for the LS1 engine. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Dan and you're watching RestoCar. So we're almost done with the underside of our 1971 Camaro. So the next big item that we have to tackle is the subframe here. We have to sandblast it and paint it. But before we do that, we have to notch it so that we can fit this LS1 in here. We need to make some room for the AC compressor here and then also the stock GM alternator for this LS1. You might be wondering, with all of the accessory drive kits out there and all of the relocation brackets out there, why not just go that path? Why notch the subframe, make more work for myself? Well, the reasons for me are pretty simple. There's two of them. The first reason is that the accessory drive kits are pretty expensive and I can spend that money elsewhere. I'm not building a show car, I'm building a driver. So I don't want to spend extra money in that area. The stock look is just fine for me. And the second reason is that I like the tight look, as they call it. And what that means is that you keep all those components down hidden underneath in their stock location so that whenever you open up the hood, all you really see is the intake, throttle body, and fuel rails, and possibly your power steering pump. So that's the look I'm going after. That's why I'm gonna go ahead and notch the subframe. All right guys, now that you know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, let me go ahead and show you around the subframe and show you where we have clearance issues. Here we have an aluminum LS1 out of a 1998 Camaro SS. I'm running Dirty Dingo double D adapter plates with stock style polyurethane energy suspension engine mounts to mount the engine into the subframe. I have about an inch of clearance between the oil pan and the subframe. This engine didn't have the stock AC compressor with it when I bought it, so I decided to minimize the amount of notch I'd have to do over here by going with a mini AC compressor. I bought all of this as a kit from Dirty Dingo, so I got the Sanden SD 7B10 compressor, and I got the low mount AC compressor brackets, and then it utilizes your stock tensioners. So again, all of this so that I didn't have to create as large of a notch in the subframe. Over here on the driver's side, you can see that I'm running the stock alternator. It's a pretty large unit. I believe I can get a smaller unit, but I'm not gonna worry about it right now. If I run into clearance issues in the future, we will look into that. One clearance issue that I've already dealt with is the steering linkage here. So if you keep this alternator in the stock location, then this pitman arm will run into it. So I swapped out the Camaro pitman arm with one from a Firebird over there. The Firebird pitman arm turns down, whereas the Camaro pitman arm is straight. All right guys, so let's take a quick look at the areas that we need to notch. All right guys, so here we are looking at the AC compressor, and if you look past the bolt that is holding the AC compressor to the bracket, and you look at that bolt that is securing the housing together, you can see that it's got about a 1/4 inch of clearance down there, maybe a little less. And I'm just not comfortable with that. So I want to give this a little more breathing room on this side. So we're going to make sure that we have an inch of clearance all the way around. So we're looking at the alternator side now. You can see that the cooling duct on the back of the alternator is just barely touching the subframe. The alternator is bolted on, so it's so close, but we need to give it a little more room. Again, I want to give it about an inch of clearance all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this real quick, and then I'm going to jump back over to the AC compressor side, and I'm going to mark that as well. All I'm doing here is putting a mark on the subframe where the alternator is touching. This side of the subframe already has a notch in it, so this one will just be making that a little bigger. So we have the subframe marked. I spent a little more time tracing around the AC compressor and the alternator. So now it's time to pull the engine out of the subframe and make our cuts. So the engine is out of the subframe. One thing I forgot to do that would have made it easier is to take off the headers before I put the straps on. But once I put the straps on and tied them in a knot, I didn't want to undo it. So I just went through a little bit of extra work there to get that out and had to raise it up a little higher. But it's all good. Over here, I took a marker and went around my scribe lines so I could see them a little better. So let me get in here close and show you what they look like. All right, so over here is the AC compressor notch that we're gonna make. So it comes down and around and then right up along here. Over here, we have the notch marked for the alternator. So same thing, it's going to come down and around and up and then straight up. So you can see right here that I'm running the stock tower mounts here. So these are necessary with the Dirty Dingo plates. They give me the perfect height and clearance here. I can fit my hand under here with the oil pan there, and then I have about an inch clearance behind here as well. So let's take a quick look at the Dirty Dingo plates. Here's a look at the Dirty Dingo plates. So the plates are this part here. They're nice and thick. They're about a 1/4 inch thick. They have flush mount Allen bolts right here. And then this is a stock style engine mount for the Camaro. So this is an energy suspension polyurethane one here. I want to say these plates have 3 holes. There's 2 that are close together, and then there's one way back here. And I am using the middle hole here. So it puts the engine in a nice place. I can't really move it any more forward for clearancing because my oil pan would be too close. Here's a look at the passenger side, same thing. All right guys, so here's a look at the cooling duct on the back of this LS1 alternator. I know the F-bodies came with this. I don't know if the trucks and everything came with it. I want to say they did not. I know that this is to cool the alternator. I don't know if it's pulling air in or pushing air out. Maybe you guys in the comment section let me know how this thing actually works here. I was gonna get an alternator without this thing here, but I'm not sure why it's here, so I don't want to do that. My concern is that because this alternator is low mount like this, that it needs it for proper cooling. We now have the subframe marked, so let's go ahead and cut out our notches. All right guys, so we got the notches cut out. Everything's looking good. I took this one on the passenger side just a little further this way to make this a more gradual bend. Prior to that, it was coming up like right here, and that would have been a tight bend to make with this thickness of steel. So I went ahead and just took it out this way a little more. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this strip of steel here to fill this stuff in. This is 1/8 inch steel here, and this appears to be about 10 gauge. So I'm under one size, but by the time we get this welded in and we get those, you know, the bends and everything in here, it should be just as strong. So I'm not worried about it. I just don't have anything else right now. So we're gonna go ahead and make these pieces now. And to do that, what I'm gonna do is just cut a straight piece here, and it's gonna go in like this, and we'll tack it to this. And then what we'll do is bend up a piece that comes in this way. So then we'll tack it here, and then we'll tack it to the straight piece that's in here. And then we'll take it back out, weld it up, clean it up, trim it up, and then finally put it in there for good. So we're gonna do the same thing on both sides. And we're gonna use this steel here. I'm hoping this is wide enough and I can make it work. It's just a little bit short there, but I think if I tack this up here first and then put in this piece here, it should work. So we're gonna go ahead and measure the distance from here to here, and we'll cut a piece and get it tacked in. All right guys, so now we got to bend this piece of steel here. It's pretty thick, I can't do it by hand. So what I did is I just took it here and clamped it in with a piece of pipe. And what I'm going to do is either try to push this by hand or take a hammer and bend it over. And I'm just trying to get this close so that we can get it in there. And then once we can get it in enough, then we can tack a piece of it and kind of just go around and keep tacking it around until we get the right bend. So anyway, let's go ahead and see if we can bend this over here and then fit it in the car. All right guys, so we got this piece in here. It's just held in with magnets right now. This is still the flat piece behind it. I didn't trim anything yet, so you can see I left myself some extra room on both sides. So what I'm gonna do right now is tack this piece to that piece and then tack it into the subframe and then use something to push down on this here to get it to where I need it, put a tack there, same thing up here. And then I'll mark my way all the way around this. We'll take it back out, we'll weld it shut and clean it up, make it one nice piece, and then we'll put it back in for good. So let's go ahead and do that. All right guys, so I got the piece back out of the car. As you can see here, this is what we need to cut off, all this over here. And while this was tacked in, all I did is I took a pick and I traced around the subframe. So that makes it real easy to get a nice good fit here. I went over to pick marks with a black permanent marker so that you can see it a little bit easier. But what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna cut on the outside of that line, and then anything that's left over, we'll just grind down flush once we get it tacked into the car. And then you can see over here, we got to cut these pieces off as well. And then what we'll do is we'll weld this whole piece on the bench here, clean it up real nice, put some primer on the back of this, and we'll be good to go. All right, let's go ahead and cut this piece up. So here's a look at the piece all done. I did weld the back side and the front side because I did not get full penetration whenever I welded it the first time. The one thing I forgot to do is bevel this piece when I tack welded it to this one. I should have beveled the edges so I could get a nice weld in there, and I forgot to do that. So I will do that on the next side. So here's a look at this in the car. It fits really nice. All of the edges are beveled on the subframe and on the piece here. I'm gonna go ahead and get this welded in now, and when I do that, I'm just gonna weld small sections at a time. There's really a low risk of this actually warping because there's so many bends and curves and everything here, but I like to just play it safe. So let's go ahead and get some primer on this and then get it welded in. All right guys, so I went ahead and started on the other side while I was waiting for the other piece to dry. So I got this piece cut, again, nice flat piece in there, and then I did the same thing with this. I just put it in the vise next to a pipe, hit it over with a hammer because this one was a little shorter, and now it's pretty close. So this is about where I go ahead and tack it. So I'm going to do that. I did bevel the edges on this one, so you can see here the edge is nice and beveled, so I should get a better weld, and hopefully I only have to weld one side. So let's go ahead and get this piece tacked in. When I go to do that, I'll push this piece down to close that gap. Right now the magnets are holding it up back here, so let's do it. All right guys, we got this one tack welded in, so we're going to go ahead and cut those two spot welds out, and we're going to take it over to the bench and clean it up, weld it together, and paint it like we did the other one. All right guys, here is the other side. We got this welded up. I did put another pass on the back and then grind it smooth as well, just to make sure I got weld the whole way through. And I need to work on my welds a bit, but it's all welded and good to go. We may clean these welds up once we get it in the subframe and we strip the subframe down and prep it for paint. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and put these in. That side's ready to go. So we're gonna go ahead and tack that side as well, and we'll just weld these up together. All right guys, so I got that one tacked in and I got that one tacked in. So now we're gonna go ahead and just burn these in. I'm gonna do about 1 inch at a time, jumping around, keeping it as cool as I can until it's fully welded in. So let's get it done. All right guys, we got these welded in on both sides, so now I'm gonna go ahead and hit the welds with a flap disc on the 4.5 inch angle grinder. All right guys, we got them welded in. Both sides are pretty good. I did clean up these welds a little bit, and whenever I strip this thing down and everything, I'll hit those with some fiberglass filler, smooth them out, make them look good. All right guys, we have the engine back in the subframe. Let's see how we did. All right guys, so here's the alternator side, and you can see that we have a lot of space there that we didn't have before, so we are good to go on this side. You can see over here, the AC compressor side, same thing. We have plenty of space that we didn't have before, so we have about 1 inch of clearance from the back of the AC compressor to the subframe. On top of that, I can fit my fingers between the AC compressor and the subframe all the way around, so we got plenty of space. Here's the side view. As you can see, we got plenty of space. All right guys, I hope you enjoyed that. We got plenty of room now for our AC compressor and our alternator. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave the engine stand hooked up to this engine because I'm gonna pull it back out and start stripping down the subframe and prepping that for paint. So if you wanna see that, subscribe. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. We'll see you in the next one.